Welcome to the Marnese Live Talkshow, a show where we can talk about social and life issues to move our society forward. Tonight, we will continue our September series on economic justice and Black economics. And so tonight, we're going to build off our conversation from Black money, Black entrepreneurship, to building the Black financial house. Tonight we have Mr. LaKeith Bradford and Mr. Edgar Jackson, and they will be talking to us about how to build our financial house, what that looks like, from life insurance to 401k. And so now let's welcome them into the Marnese Live Talk Show. Welcome. How you doing, LaKeith?
How's it going?
Really good. So
let me turn my music off. I'm sorry. I was grooving out to my hip hop jazz. You know, it's when you're in your 40s and you still like hip hop. Hip hop jazz is beautiful, right?
Nice jazzy tune. So I think it may just be me and you tonight talking about Black Financial House. So thank you so much for being on the Marnese Live Talk Show.
Oh, thank you for having me. Definitely.
Great. So I would like to go ahead and kick off this conversation. Could you tell me about your line of work?
Okay. Well, my name is LaKeith Bradford. I'm actually an associate partner for a Fortune 100 financial services company and a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, the greatest fraternity in all the world beyond all reasonable doubt. Father of two, recently engaged, getting married in 2022. And I've been in the financial services business for the last 3 years. And financial literacy amongst people that look like you and I is a passion of mine, and looking forward to the conversation.
Wow. So could you tell me more? Why is it a passion of yours? Like, what made you want to say, hey, I want to make sure that finances are on point. I want to talk to people about it. Mm-hmm. And yes, thanks so much, Fred Brother, for coming in and being on the Marnese Live Talk Show.
Oh, absolutely. For a sower, absolutely. Right. So the reason that it's important to me is this. You know, I've always had this burning desire to know who my great grandfather was. Mm-hmm. And as a kid, I realized that I didn't know who they were because they didn't leave me any money. Right. So I wanted to be the first person to start the trend of making my children millionaires. Mm-hmm. Right. I'm halfway there. So I understood that we really have an economic problem in our community, right? The people that galvanize their dollars and control their economic power are the communities that thrive. You know, so literally I was working with Comcast. I was a manager with them. My career was going well. I was got promoted 10 months after I moved to Jersey. I'd been with the company for like a year and a half, and then it got promoted again to a manager, but I felt capped. And I wanted to do something a little bit more fulfilling, right? What I was doing with Comcast, you know, setting customers up. Well, I managed a team of 16 people, and you know, I just didn't feel fulfilled. And I started out in the financial services business right out of college at Michigan State in 1999, but just too young, didn't know what I had. But I always had a desire for economics. I mean, I literally read Modern Money Mechanics. That's the book that the Federal Reserve Bank puts out. Well, they used to print it, but now you can just download it online. But economics just always was a thing for me. So I realized when I went through a divorce and I lost a lot of my retirement assets, hey, listen, she got exactly what she deserved. And the money that I paid her, listen, she's the mother of my children. It is what it is, right? Mm-hmm. So when I was looking for opportunities to rebuild it, I started coming across concepts that I learned, you know, almost a little over 20 years ago. And I started calling my friends and asking them, hey, do you guys know about these things? And they didn't. So I said, you know, if I'm going to spend the rest of my life doing something, I want to do it for me, and I want to get fulfillment and let the byproduct of that be that I earn an income. And that's where financial literacy came into play. So the company that I found and that I work with, their interests align 100% with mine, and I just kind of ran with it.
Wow, that's interesting. So on the flip side, what why would a Black person, because we're focusing on Black economics this month,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
advancing Black people, we hear talks about reparations, supporting Black businesses. So why is it important to have a financial advisor?
Well, I was thinking about that question as you posed it to me. Um, my question to people is, if you wanted to get legal advice, would you go to a doctor? No, you would not. And if you wanted to get medical advice, you wouldn't go to a lawyer, right?
Mhm.
So the people that are in the financial services business, we have licenses just like doctors, just like lawyers. Now, the impact of what they have on someone's life is tremendous, right? You think about the doctor who, if he makes a mistake, it could cost him his license and it maybe some jail time or maybe malpractice suit. The same thing for an attorney. A licensed financial professional has the same obligations to you, right? When I take a client and I, whether it be put them on a plan to be debt free or insure their life for $1 million, what I did was just as impactful as what their doctor's doing for them, as what their lawyer is doing for them.
Mhm.
Because if you don't come home tomorrow and your family's instantly in a position um, of tax-free income, I mean that's a serious matter. Now, um, as it relates to getting advice, here is the problem that I see. Not a problem, but here's something that I think that we need to work on as a community. We don't really trust each other. Okay, so that's the major issue, and we're tight to the vest on, hey, this is my money. I don't want you necessarily knowing what it is that I'm doing with it. But in order for you to really figure out what money is, what money does, how to make it grow, how to place it in tax-free vehicles, things like that, you've got to seek out the advice of a professional. Because
Mhm.
ultimately, you start out in your 20s and your 30s and you're making a little bit of money, or maybe you're making a lot of money for how you were brought up, 40, 50, $60,000. And eventually later in your life, you start to really earn income, 100,000, 150, 165, 200,000. What do you do with that money? And if
Mhm.
you haven't built up the habits of places to put it and where it can go, how it grows, how it affects you from a tax perspective, then you're just literally going to be a broke person who makes $150,000 a year,
Okay.
living paycheck to paycheck. You're up to your nose in debt. So if you don't seek the advice of a professional that looks at these things every single day, then you're really not being a good steward of your money. And I know the majority of us subscribe to a certain religious sect, and it talks about that in the Bible all the time about being a good steward of your resources. And one of the ways to do that is seek counsel from God first, and then seek out a professional to be able to put a plan together for you.
So let's talk more about, you said something about people making $100,000, but what about people who are on the low income spectrum or moderate income, when they're just barely surviving paycheck to paycheck, or
Mhm.
considered the working poor or the working class, middle class? What would you suggest, or them to get into a conversation of having a financial advisor? Like, that may be foreign to some people,
Mhm.
like, or even beyond their thinking, or something that they may be able to obtain, right?
Mhm.
Because we think about a financial advisor, you may think, I may have the financial means to invest in my kids' college investments or IRAs and things of that nature. But sometimes people just don't have the financial means to just even get a basic life insurance policy. Does that make sense?
It does. So here's what I say to that. Let's start with the last part of what you said first and then work our way backwards. So when people tell me that they can't afford a life insurance policy, right? I always ask them, hey, what's your favorite drink? Hennessy, Ciroc. When was the last time you went to the mall and bought some shoes? Yeah, 150 for some Jordans, right? Well, for some people, $150 may cover a life insurance policy for the rest of the year. So the affordability aspect of life insurance is really more of a mental thing.
Mhm.
It's not it's not an actual thing, because I know people who say that they can't afford life insurance, but they smoke a pack of cigarettes a day. Newports cost $8. My mother smokes, and I know, but I was reluctant to go buy her some when I was in Michigan, and they cost eight. I'm like, $8? Wow. So you're doing that 7 days a week. That's, what is that? $56 a
Mhm.
week.
Mhm.
You multiply that by 4, that's almost $230, right? So when you think about that, it's really a matter of sitting down with a professional to figure out where your money goes, right? And a lot of us, the money comes in, and if we don't take the money before you see it,
Mhm.
that's money that I get to spend.
Mhm.
Okay. So from there, it really is a matter of managing your debt.
Mhm.
Because I was just talking to one of my clients yesterday, and we were having I've become a trusted partner with a lot of my clients,
Mhm.
and we're just talking about relationships and that type of thing, like, giving her advice. I mean, from what she's seen, my fiance, we have a great relationship. We communicate very well, but someone making 75,000, $50,000 a year with zero debt is probably in a better position to invest than a person who has an income of 125,000 and they got student loan debt, credit card debt, mortgage, car payment. They're up to the hilt in debt. So it's really a matter of managing what you have coming in, learning or seeking out a tax professional to see how you can take advantage of the tax code.
Mhm.
It's really a want to do better. Most people think that they can do better, but do you really want to? Because there's a ton of information out there. I mean, we've got these beautiful things called smartphones, and you can Google just about everything, right? So I've come to realize that people will do um, what they want to do. Now, on the flip side of that coin is, what have you been exposed to? Deep down inside of everybody, you want better for yourself or you want better for your children, right? And it starts with that mentality of wanting more and understanding that there are other ways to handle money than to just spend it before you get it. That's a poor person's mentality.
Hmm.
So
So,
hopefully I answered all of those questions. It was a couple in there I was trying to get to, but that's what I think about when I hear you ask those questions or phrase it in that way. Everyone can seek out the advice of a financial professional.
mhm.
I mean, every financial professional that I know, whether they charge fees to
Mhm.
do planning, or if they do planning and then the company reimburse or pays them for whatever services that you decide to get through that particular advisor. I know advisors that would love to do philanthropic work.
Oh.
Okay, because given the information is free. Now, if you're a certified financial professional and you want to charge someone a fee for your expertise, you're well within your right to do so. You have the license, you have the credentials, you should be paid like a professional. But for the overall people who want to get that type of advice, seek out the help of a professional, right? Find out what it is that they charge. When I was an agent and an advisor, um, the initial meetings that I had didn't cost anybody anything. All it cost you was 35, 40 minutes of your time to really talk about transparently where your money goes and what your goals and desires are, and then put a plan together to get you to that. Now, if in fact there are products and services that I offer that allow you to do that in a more efficient way, the company paid me. The money didn't come from you. So that's the biggest misconception, is that it's going to cost me a lot of money, or I don't have enough money to have a financial advisor. That's for rich people. That is not for rich people. We have to start somewhere, and it all starts with education, at least finding out what the possibilities are.
All right. So I want to take a step back on like the
Hmm.
basics of like getting on that financial plan. Um,
Hmm.
Last week we had Gail Perry Mason and Mary Evans to talk about Black money and how they both have youth group related starting your business, entrepreneurship, and
Hmm.
money boot camps to teach basics to youth. So could you give our viewers, a shout out to the viewers watching the Marnese LIVE Talk Show, what can you start at age? Let's start at age 20.
Okay.
Or we can go
So
what like
yeah, I mean,
by age group, what should they start focusing on? You don't have to give me anything comprehensive,
wow.
but
Okay.
like
I really say it just depends.
okay.
And I hate to give you that answer, but I'm gonna back it up with some substance. But it depends. I've never designed the same plan twice,
Okay.
and I have clients in their 20s. My youngest client is 13.
Okay. Oh,
It's my son, right? So I would really say it's really just understanding what money is and what money means to you in your 20s, right? We typically don't have these conversations. I'm sure you're aware of this. Hey, stay out of grown folks' business, right? We heard that when we were children, and we heard it all the way up until we were trying to figure out what in the heck grown folks' business was. Okay. And then by that time, you spend the majority of your 20s screwing your credit up, your 30s realizing, oh man, I really needed to get that together. And the rest of your 30s paying off the debt. And then in your 40s, hopefully you're able to do that. But by that time, you got kids and they got needs and they go into soccer and playing football, and all of the money that you had is going to those things, right? So what I would say for somebody in their 20s is that when you graduate, have a conversation with your parents, make a deal with them. I want to be able to stay at home for 2 years. And here's the reason why. I'm getting out of college. I'm going to find a job, and I want to be able to pay you rent, but give me a reasonable rate,
okay.
right? So that they get some serious habits about responsibility. But I want to pay down my student loan debt. Now, most parents are reasonable enough to say, okay, they're not trying to go out the world backwards. They have a plan. It's feasible for us, even though I might be in my late 40s and I'm an empty nester and I don't want my kids coming back. But the average parent is reasonable enough to say, okay, 2 years, you want to pay down your student loan debt. How much money are you planning to save to get you started? Right? 10,000, 15,000, whatever it is. But to put a plan together and have that conversation, because often too many times you get out of college and you just want to break free from your parents. Other nationalities don't do that. Other nationalities, they stay together. Like when I moved to New Jersey, this is when it really opened my eyes to this type of conversation, right? Where I would see a family buy a 3-family household. The parents lived on the first floor. The kids that were in their teens lived on the second floor, and the third floor was the person that was just out of college trying to get their life together. And they all pooled their assets, and they were doing well. And every time that I saw that, it was not anybody that looked like me. I don't care what their nationality was. But so let's get back to the question. What do you need to do? Focus on your debt management, right? When you go out and you're looking to try to buy a car, it might be a good idea to lease it initially to keep your costs down. And if you like to get a new car every 3 years, okay, great. Some people say go ahead and buy the car, but buying a depreciating asset is probably not the best thing to do when you're in your early 20s, right? You need that money to pay down debt. You need that money to be able to save, okay? First and foremost, definitely get all of your protection aspects in place. You know, your medical insurance, if you're not on your parents' medical insurance, you know, buy a term life policy or a whole life policy so that you have that particular financial asset together. Establish a Roth IRA. Roth IRAs are a great vehicle to be able to put a small amount of money into on a yearly basis that's going to grow tax-free. If you can't have a brokerage account, great. But along with those things is saving up at least 3 to 6 months worth of salary or expenses. That's a good number for most people, even into their 30s and their 40s. We always recommend that people get the emergency savings up. I mean, with what's happening with COVID right now, a lot of that stimulus, did it help? Absolutely. $1,200 is $1,200. But for the people who actually had emergency savings, they were a little bit more well off than the people who didn't. So I would say start with those things. So let me recap with that. I'll back it up actually. 3 to 6 months worth of emergency savings, whether that be in a savings account or a checking account. If you want to earn interest on it, fine. Most banks don't necessarily give you the most amount of interest on those, but it's a good idea to earn a little bit if you can. So to get there's two schools of thoughts on this: expenses or salary. If you can get it up to salary, that's great, right? If you're making $5,000 a month and you get it up to 15,000, that's awesome. And then look for other places to put that money. So for someone like that, once they get to that point, just start whatever you were putting away to get to that 15,000. Just start putting that towards your debt, right? That's the pay yourself first mentality. And then, make sure to get some life insurance. I'm sure that there's somebody that you love that you can leave money to in the event that something happens to you. I mean, of course, in your 20s, you feel like you're immortal and nothing's going to happen to you, but we've all heard of stories of people passing away unexpectedly, right? Whether it be car accidents or violence or, nature. And then look into establishing some type of Roth IRA. Those are the three places that I would start with anybody, whether they come to me in their 20s, their 30s, their 40s, or their 50s. In the 60s, not necessarily saying it's too late, but they just got to convince them that they got to work until they're about 80, 82. They're going to need some time, right?
Right.
But that's where I would start.
So, what are somebody coming in new who doesn't matter the age, wants to really get their financial house in order, right? I come to Brother Keith and say, hey, I need your assistance. What are the main 3 questions that someone should ask a financial advisor? Like they're vetting you, because sometimes you get some advisors. I know I have experienced some advisors who are just really trying to get you to sign up for life insurance, but don't tell you about anything else, right? So how would you suggest people to vet financial advisors so they can be a good one, having a great relationship, just to talk about some of the insecurities of, debt and or the financial management?
Okay.
So what would you suggest?
First question is to ask them, hey, what are you licensed to do? That's a great question, to be able to at least find out what options the person has. Some people are licensed to do life insurance. Some people are licensed to do health insurance. Some people are licensed to do mutual funds and set up variable products. Some people are licensed to do stocks and bonds where they charge fees. So it's really important to know, hey, what are you licensed to do? Second question is, hey, what's your process? And what do you take your clients through? How often do you keep in touch with your clients? Is it once a year, every quarter, every 6 months? What is it? And then lastly, hey, how much do you charge for your services? Okay. Asking them how long they've been in the business, I think is irrelevant. In my first year in the financial services, I think I ran 10 meetings a week for a year straight. So you're talking 500 some odd meetings in a year. So I saw a lot of statements. I talked to a lot of people, from 20 years old up to 72. So I saw a lot of different things. So the experience that I gained in that year kind of accelerated my career 4 or 5 years, easy, right? So finding out those fundamental questions, because some people may only want to sell you life insurance, whereas you run into someone like myself who's licensed. I have the Series 6 license, which allows me to do variable products, mutual funds, set up IRAs, things like that. And the Series 63, which basically is a state license. I'm actually studying for my Series 7. I just want to have it. I don't necessarily need it as a partner, but I want to have it. So I'm able to set up IRAs, able to talk about investments, able to talk about debt management and what that looks like. So those are some of the fundamental questions that I would tell people to ask. And then interview more than just one. Find out what companies offer which products, and align your interests with that person. I mean, you don't necessarily have to go into a meeting with someone and just if someone you ever go into a meeting and in the first meeting they ask you for a check, that's probably not the person for you.
Okay.
They're not listening to what you need. It should be a conversation. It should be a dialogue. All of the solutions that the person offers up to you should be specific to what your goals and your desires are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the test, the true test of someone that has your best interest at heart. So for my clients that have money in the market, we speak every 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
For my clients that have only life insurance with me, it's I call them not every 6 months, but frequently, just to check on them, especially during the COVID time. You know, my clients have become friends, and some of my friends have become clients. So I speak to my clients on a regular basis. So, you know, it's a relationship, not a transaction. And we have to not look at it like that. Now, people have relationships with their property and casualty person, whether it be car insurance, homeowners insurance, renters insurance. And a lot of times those people have the license to do other things. They just don't specialize in that. So ask your property and casualty person, hey, who do you recommend, you know, that I talk to for this? Who do you recommend that I talk to for whatever it is you're looking for? Just, you know, get trusted advisors around you that have different levels of expertise.
Right. And you said a key word, a nice organizing word, transactional, that we often use in different organizing spaces. That this experience got to be really transformational for all of us to do away with a lot of financial stress. And so I want to ask you about some suggestive ways that we as a Black community as a whole can end generational poverty, right? Especially right now in the pandemic. It's like people just, of course, trying to survive, making or hoping and praying that they don't get laid off from work. What does that look like even right now?
First and foremost, we got to get healthy, right? We got to take a little bit more control over our diets. You know, realizing that the way that modern medicine is designed for people that don't look like you and I. Our body type is a little bit different, right? We have issues that are specific to us, you know, whether it be hypertension or gestational diabetes or diabetes, sickle cell anemia, all of those types of illnesses or diseases, as I would like to call them. We got to get healthy because when you're healthy, you know, you're able to think clearer, you feel better about yourself, your mental health is good. At least 80% of it is good. I mean, you still have the stresses of life and those types of things, but we got to get healthy because the only way so let's talk about, you said the wealth gap, right? So at our current pace, it would take 229 years to close the wealth gap from our Caucasian counterparts. At the pace that we're going right now, okay, even with Bob Johnson as a billionaire, LeBron about to be a billionaire, those are the one-offs. But as a group, 229 years. Our Hispanic counterparts is about 89 years away from closing that gap. Now, if you can imagine that their population is not as high as ours, but they're closing that gap a lot faster. They take control of their health. They believe in the structure of the family. And we got to get back to those two things: getting healthy, getting our family structure back together, right? And then to speed it up, we have to do it through inheritance. Now, a lot of people think, I'm going to build this business, I'm going to leave it to my children. Well, I always ask business owners, well, what if your kids don't want to do it? Oh, no, they're going to do it. Well, how do you know that? Have you talked to your kids about, hey, this is what they're going to do? You got 3 kids, maybe one of them is going to do it. The other 2 are going to want to split the business up so they can get paid. So is that really a succession plan? So leaving an inheritance, I mean, that's Proverbs 13:22, right? A prudent man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. So the only way to really speed that up is to leverage your dollars. If you could buy a dollar for a penny, would you do it? Now, that's my question to you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, how many dollars do you want to buy? Is my next question. Okay. So when I say that, when you
Mhm.
think about the cost, we keep going back to life insurance, and I don't really want to make this a life insurance conversation, but just think about this. The chances of you and I becoming a millionaire are slim in
Mhm.
relationship to the population. Okay. Is it possible to do that? Yes.
Mhm.
What's the likelihood that that's going to happen? Right. We see all of these people that, they get rich quick and everybody wants that. The average millionaire is 62 years old.
Mhm.
What does that mean? That means that it takes time to build wealth.
Okay.
Or you can speed it up by having a life insurance policy. If you're spending $50 a month and it's a $500,000 policy and you pass away, there was no way you were going to give $500,000 to your children. I mean, most people in the state that they're in now
Mhm.
live in check to check. But if you were able to do that with instructions being a will and a trust, because most people's fear is, I don't want to leave somebody that much money. They're just going to blow it. Well, speak from the grave, create a will. You can go on LegalZoom and create a will, get it notarized, and that's what you want to have happen. You can only spend X amount of dollars on this. You can only spend X amount of dollars on that. Leave it in a trust and have the trust be the executor of your will, right? So there's a lot of different ways to be able to close the wealth gap, but in order to accelerate it, we have to leave inheritances because, you know, hey, I'm going to get, I think, our generation was, our parents was, hey, I'm going to push my children to be educated.
Mhm.
Okay. That's what I'm going to push on my kids. You're going to get a college degree and you're going to come up that way. Well, that was their charge. They handed the baton to us. Hey, you've got the education, now run with it. Now it's our charge to talk to our children and those who are coming after us about financial literacy and what to do with their money. Because
Right.
if you think about where we've come from,
Mhm.
right? We came from, Jim Crow, and we outlasted that, we outsmarted it, and we adjusted to the system, and we still made our way. The civil rights movement. A lot of what funded the civil rights movement were skilled trade workers,
Mhm.
carpenters, plumbers, electricians, things that people can get a license, and I get to control what it is that I earn. So those people are like, yo, I don't want my children working like I'm working, like a dog, like this. We're pushing education. You got to get educated. And both parents go out to work, and we create this thing called occupational orphans, okay, where 12 years old, I got a key to the house. Don't let nobody in my house until I get home at 6:30, 7 o'clock, right? So we get educated. We have children, and we don't instill in them the same type of work ethic because we want them to have the things that we didn't have growing up.
But then
So,
you said something about these
mhm.
trade jobs, um, which I think also should be in that conversation with children besides college. Because
Creating a business. Mhm.
right, you can create a business, you can earn a trade, versus going to get into a lot of debt, getting a college
Yes,
degree.
yes. I mean, one of our fraternity brothers
Hmm.
has a degree in, I think it's electrical engineer,
Okay.
right? One of the smartest men I know. Was going, I believe he did get a master's degree, right? He was working corporate America, and he found out, hey man, I could probably make a lot more money if I was just to get a journeyman's license and start business for myself. And he did it, and he is the happiest he's ever been. Now, what he did say to me was, I wish I would have did this beforehand because my parents pushed college on me, where a skilled trade is a beautiful thing to be able, you're always employed if you have a license,
Hmm.
always, as an electrician, as a plumber, as an HVAC person. And you don't have to have college degrees to do that and build up a bunch of debt to do it. Maybe you take out a loan for 9 or 10,000 to be able to get a certification, whether it be through IT or whatever. Colleges and community colleges are offering those things. So there are a thousand ways to skin that cat. because I know a lot of my clients even, listen, man, I don't want to study for 4 years to get a bunch of debt to go get a job making 50, 60 grand. What can I do now to build a business for myself? And there are a ton of ways to get certifications.
Mhm.
And I'm starting to see that a lot of my friends that are in HR, they rather hire somebody with a certification and work experience than somebody getting out of college with a degree.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
education is definitely a major factor, but getting back into the skilled trades, and I'm so disappointed that they took skilled trades out of the high schools.
Mhm.
I'm from Detroit. We had Crockett with the Votech,
Mhm.
and how many of my high school friends became beauticians and plumbers and electricians straight out of high school, right? To be able to put the skilled trades back into. So it's a long answer to that question, but I think the quickest way to do that is through inheritance and understanding how to leave that legacy. You and we have to get over the mentality of I'm not leaving nothing for nobody. Okay. And I remember, I'll tell you a quick story. I remember sitting down with a couple, and the husband was like, I'm not leaving nothing to anybody. I don't care what you say. And he sat back with his arms folded like this. And I said, okay, well, man, it's a nice house you got here. How much is the house worth? Oh, what's the mortgage on the house? 339,000.
Mhm.
Wow. So did you go to college? Yeah, I got a master's degree. How much do you owe on that? 110,000.
Mhm.
Okay. I said, well, man, before we go even further, you're going to need about 450,000 just to leave nobody nothing. Because if you die today, you're leaving a $300,000 mortgage and all your student loan debt for your wife. That's literally what you need. Do you have it? No, I don't have it. Let's have a conversation about how we're going to solve this problem that you have.
Right.
And so when you explain things to people in that terms, and those terms, I should say,
Mhm.
it opens up the conversation to having a more real conversation. I always just start my meetings. I'm not here to ask you for a check. I'm here to find out what your goals are, your objectives. Worst case scenario, we part as friends. Best case scenario, I can give you some value and give you some life lessons and from a financial perspective to be able to use for the rest of your life.
All right. So I want to get a shout out to everyone that's watching the Marnese Live Talk Show. Definitely thank you so much for tuning in to this information. Thanks so much from Melinda. Steve, Michael says, go Mob Fred. Yes.
Oh, go Mom.
So
Go Mom. Go Mom.
what does that
Oh,
mean?
I'm moving the right way.
Nothing.
You said what?
What does
Oh,
that
yeah. Okay. Oh, I have no idea.
Of course she was saying.
I have no idea. Yeah, I have no
Yeah.
idea.
So thanks so much for that. And so as we wrap up, I had another question to follow up. Say if people like me who will be interested in starting to get into the stocks,
Mhm.
like my friend, she invited me to see, this is how you know I'm not even good at it. Get a stock.
Okay.
Like, and I was
Yeah.
like, okay, so how do you do that? And she sent me the link. And what would be some suggestive ways for people like me
Mhm.
who are not educated on something like that, but want to just kind of like start investing in stocks?
Okay. So here's a great way to understand what to invest in from a stock perspective.
Hmm.
Look around your house and see what interests you.
Hmm.
What are you interested in the most? Are you a technology super freak? I have to have the latest this, latest that. Then you probably understand which companies do what, who's coming out with what,
Hmm.
and why. Then why not invest in that company? Why not invest in that sector, technology? Are you a person who, I have a bunch of notebooks, right? I'm old school. Here's a new one. I'm just about to finish this one. Here's my new one, right?
Hmm.
So the company that makes these notebooks, why don't I just invest in these notebooks,
Okay.
right? Take a look at what you're interested in and what you spend your money on and figure out how can I get money back from them?
Hmm.
And the best way is to be able to own stock in a company. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to own the company, but you can own a piece of it. And a piece of ownership is owning the stock.
Okay.
Okay. So that's a great way to start out with, hey, what should I invest in? People come to me all the time. Hey, LaKeith, what should I invest in? I always tell them, it depends. They say, oh, wow, you must not be much of a good financial advisor. I said, well, any financial advisor that comes out and just tells you what to invest in does not have your best interest at heart. Because I can't tell you what you should invest in, because I don't know what your investor profile is. I don't know what your discretionary income looks like. I don't know if in fact you even have discretionary income to invest. What do I look like telling you to invest money and you're living check to check, and the money that you're investing could probably go to food or paying the light bill or the gas bill? I don't know any of those things. Right. But I will tell you, when people do ask me that question the same way that you did, is invest in what you know. It's the easiest way to say, I like this. I spend my money on this. How can I get money back from them? Because every time I spend $1 with that company, I know that it's helping me because I own stock in the company. That's a good way to do it.
So there are different apps out here that people are on. Which are some of the apps would you recommend to even start that? Because I downloaded Robinhood. Is that a good one?
Well, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not. So literally, I'm aware of the apps, but the ins and outs of the apps, I'm not 100% aware of. Because when people ask me those questions, it's like me making a recommendation to them.
Gotcha.
And I'm not putting my license on the line for something like that. So what I tell people to do is just, do as much research on it as you possibly can, or let's sit down and have a conversation to talk about what it is that you're looking to do, right? Are you in a financial position to be able to invest? Because when people say that to me, I'm like, well, why do you want to invest? Well, I want my money to grow. Okay. How are you using your money now? Right? How are you allocating your dollars right now? Do you find at the end of the month you have more month than you have money? And if you say yes, then you're not in a position to invest.
Right.
That's one of the first things we learn when you get a securities license. Is suitability is a huge issue in our industry. Right? We have this new law called the best interest law. And any recommendation that you make to somebody, it has to be in their best interest. And if somebody is living check to check, it's probably not in their best interest for somebody to put their money in the market, because if they lose it, or if they run into an emergency, the first place they're going to go to is the money in that investment. They pull that money out. If it earned a little bit of money, now you owe capital gains taxes, and that just puts you into a worse position than you were before. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's really more of a conversation and really sitting down with a professional. But for people who have a little of some discretionary income and they want to try those things out, I've seen it work for some, and for some I've seen it not work. I had one client, he's like, man, I had a Robinhood app and I used it and it was great. But then he got a tax bill the next year because he had gains in that account and he was buying and selling inside of the account. So you got to seek professionals, seek a tax professional to find out what that does, seek a financial professional to find out how it's going to affect you from a financial perspective, and tell people, stop trying to circumvent talking to a professional, right? They have licenses for a reason, and everybody's like, oh, I can do it myself. Okay. I mean, Marnese, I have a financial advisor, and I'm in the business, right? Because a lot of times you can't see the forest for the trees. I know it comes in. I manage it the best I can. I'm working on debt, and that's my focus. I'm paying off debt. I accumulated a lot of debt in my divorce, so I'm focused on paying off the debt. But I do need a third party to look at my finances and say, "Hey, you're making progress. Hey, what is your plan for this?" Right? And that's what a lot of financial advisors have financial advisors, because sometimes you miss it, right? Most people are great advice givers for others, but not for themselves.
Facts.
Right? And just understanding that, why not just be mature enough to say, hey, I'm practicing what I'm preaching. Get a financial professional.
So just to end, last question, what does
Mhm.
a robust wealth management portfolio look like on a spectrum from low income to upper income? I know you mentioned, of course, getting life insurance.
Mhm.
Um, that's like the main thing because we all need
Okay.
to be protected. Is there
Okay.
anything else that you can provide or offer our viewers?
So a few things. Number one, save money. Get your savings to where you feel comfortable, whether it's 3 to 6 months worth of expenses or 3 to 6 months worth of salary. And I
Mhm,
say 3 to 6 months because if you're single, you should really try to get up to about 6 months.
mhm,
If you're a business owner, you need 9 to 12 months worth of um, expenses at least. If you're married, each of you at least have 3 months, so the household has 6 months. Because God forbid someone loses their job and they got to figure out how to maintain it. At least you have 6 months for that person to be able to do that.
mhm.
If you have a job, invest in your 401ks or your company plan. Um, I recommend people do up to the match. So if your company is matching, do up to the match. That's just smart money.
Mhm,
Um, Seek out a financial professional, number one.
mhm,
And then also have life insurance. Life insurance is there's several uses for it. And I would say start with those. Manage your debt. Keep your debt as low as you possibly can with your cash flow moving. Uh, a robust, wealthy portfolio includes some real estate as well, right? Whether it be rental properties or that's another way to be able to build wealth and transfer wealth and close the wealth gap is through real estate. And you can put the real estate in a trust so that when you pass away, that your kids can't automatically just liquidate your estate. What else? And really educate yourself on first and foremost, what does money mean to you? What
hmm,
does it mean? For every person I ask that to, money means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, right? It's a means to do what, or it justifies the ends, right? So a lot of people, they say access, or they say, well, it gives me comfort, it relaxes me, it gives me ability to do what it is that I want. And some people say it makes me happy, or it just depends. But really find out what money means to you, right? So as I'm thinking about all of the general things that people can do, save money. If you give to charity, whether it be through tithing, whether it be through giving to charitable organizations, that's an abundance principle that is being taught. Is that if you can't receive when you got a closed hand, right? So give. If you give, you also can receive. But it's just an abundance principle of, hey, I'll never have lack in my life because I give. Okay, that's what that principle is. So I would say, give to charities if you can. I mean, even if it's $5 or $10, that could be substantial for somebody. So all of the things that I mentioned, you know, getting your savings together, charitable donations. If you can afford disability income insurance, get that, or at least sign up for it through your employer. Short-term, long-term disability, have it for that. Long-term care insurance is a part of a robust portfolio as well, because if you get disabled and you need to be taken care of, disability income insurance will continue to pay you your salary because short-term and long-term disability only pays about 60%. So if
mhm.
you had a disability income insurance policy, it would cover the difference to have you have your entire salary that you needed. The long-term care insurance policy would pay for someone to come to your home to take care of you,
You
right?
would get
So
that through your job, or is there like a separate entity that you would reach out to?
some employers offer long-term care insurance.
Mhm,
Most of them don't, so you would need to definitely seek out a professional to be able to purchase that.
mhm.
So when I ask people, do you have long-term care insurance? They think, oh yeah, I have that. And I have to re-clarify, not long-term disability, long-term care insurance. Long-term disability just makes sure that you continue to receive income from your employer, but it has limitations to it. Do you have something where someone's going to come take care of you and an insurance company will pay for that? So protection, then focus on accumulation. And then once you get to retirement age, focus on distribution. So within your protection, making sure that you subscribe to your company's health insurance plan. I know I talk to a lot of business owners, and they have a hard time getting their employees to sign up for the health insurance plan. So when I go and talk to their employees, it's $35 a week versus a $35,000 bill if something happens to you. Which one do you want? Well, you know what I mean? I'd rather pay the $35 a week to do it, right? So subscribe to your company's health insurance plan. Talk to the professionals that they have to work with the benefits from your employer. Because remember, those benefits don't travel with you typically when you leave. Mm-hmm. So if you're starting a new job and you got that 90-day window before you can have benefits, you're out here uncovered for 90 days. Like, I don't know anybody that would go drive their car without car insurance for 90 days. Would you do that?
No.
No. So
it's just funny you say that.
Right. When you think about it in those terms, you know, it's all relative. How are you protecting yourself from the eventual things that are going to happen? There's if things happen, insurance, right? Car insurance, homeowners insurance, and the statistics show that 2% of the time you're going to lose your house to a fire. But people have it. Mortgage companies require that you get it, right? So that's if you get into a car accident, if you get sick, if you're disabled, if you need to be taken care of. And then there's the when insurance. When insurance is you're going to die, you just don't know when, right? So to have those things taken care of, get your debt, get your protection and your insurance together, then start to focus on accumulation, whether it be investments, retirement planning, legacy planning. And then when you retire, how do you allow your assets that you've built up to live longer than your name?
All right. Well, thank you so much, Brother LaKeith D. Bradford, for being on the Marnese Live Talk Show. To my viewers, if you like this information, you can always Facebook LaKeith Bradford, and he will definitely be in touch with you. Is that safe to say that before I say it?
Sure. I mean, of course, I'm happy to, to speak to anyone. I mean, it's, I don't want to use this like as an advertisement or anything like that, but I'm always interested in having conversations with people. I mean, your viewers or this is a passion of mine. I love talking about these things, and the questions that you've asked are things that we need to have conversations around, what we need to have around dinner tables. And I was super excited for the opportunity to speak tonight, and I appreciate that. And, as always, thank you.
Thank you so much, Brother Keith, for being on the Marnese Live Talk Show. And so next week, we will end our Black Economic Series. I could not have a talk show without talking about the green economy, because environmental and climate justice is near and dear to my heart. And green reparations. We have a wonderful panel who's very involved in the environmental and climate and energy and utility justice movement. And so we're going to have a really robust conversation on what that looks like. So tune in to the Marnese Live Talk Show next week, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks so much for watching, and do not forget to subscribe to the Marnese Live Talk Show on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. And you can also follow Marnese Jackson on Twitter. Thank you.
I got some conversations about reparations.
Oh my goodness. And this is going to definitely look different because we're talking about green reparations, which is also intersectional with, of course, reparations for Black people.
Yeah, so, give me a tax cut. I want a tax cut. give me a tax cut for the next 25 years. I'll take that. Don't give me the cash. Allow me to have a $15,000 a year tax cut on top of what you're already doing. That's what I want. I want something sustainable. But anyway, all right. Thank you so much.
All right. So thanks everybody for watching, and have a wonderful night.
All right.
All right.